Welcome back to the Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
Welcome back this wonderful Monday morning, Holo Cult. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us today. Kyle's got some interesting research on some germ warfare, which should be fucking dope.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
But I hope you all are having as good of a Monday as you possibly can, because we all know that Mondays are the shits.
Facts.
Along with Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. But anyway, got to get through all the business first so we can get into this episode. So check us out at all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky podcast. You'll find us there. Come and hang out with us. Be part of the Holo Cult. Share weird stuff. Just be cool. It's easy. Come and hang out. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like for us to feature on a future episode, Kyle's got a bunch of info you're going to want to take notes on.
You can call or text the holophone, which is going to be 1-618-556-0837. You can also write your story out or record it with like a voice memo app on your smartphone and then shoot that over to the email, which is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com. You can also try to schedule an interview with us, which is holoskyinterviews@gmail.com, and come on the show and talk about your crazy happenings.
Yeah, we've got a bunch, probably about a dozen that have been sent over already. We're in the process of trying to create a recording schedule because we have a bunch of other content creators that also want to work with us. So we're trying to get everything in the bag, keep the normal show rolling. And you know how it is.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's
going to be a good year. 2023 is going to be weird as fuck.
Bro, let's hope so, because these past 6 months have been extremely hard on us.
Yeah.
They've been exceptionally hard.
Metaphysical
and it just,
warfare.
Like we were talking, it's just body shot after body shot after body shot. You're almost just waiting for that right hook headshot to put you down.
Just a Mike Tyson banger to put you down.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
If you like to support the show, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. First off, word of mouth. Spread the word of the Holo Cult.
Please.
Post us on social media, share the show, tell all your friends. Shout out to everybody that listens to us on the old Spotify. You guys have been doing work over there.
Straight up busting.
5% shared globally, and most of it was from text messages.
Right.
Like Holo Cult worldwide.
It is awesome to see it grow and grow and grow.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. It really is. And I hope that here before long, you and me will be doing this full time. And then, man, I think that's when the floodgates are going to open. Like people think that it's weird now that like we dip into some of the lesser known things. Give us all day to look at stuff. Give us all day.
My head will explode. You heard me when we were recording Saturday, looking through some of the files and shit that I found. I legitimately felt like Fox Mulder. Sitting there reading these Fortean reports of fucking meat showers and the greatest shit ever.
Dude, so cool.
It is
so cool. I'm so stoked you found all that, because that's gonna make some awesome content. So, and not to mention, it's just gonna be amazing to sit there and look at that, because that, like you said, that source material you were able to track down is basically like a lost like lesson. You know what I mean? Like they don't make it anymore.
I found a copy for $1,800.
That's awesome.
Buying it because I am poor. But anyway,
right.
Speaking of poor, this is a good lead-in. Speaking of poor, we also got a Patreon. If you'd like to come over there and support the show, check out all the tiers. See if there's anything you're interested in. We got a bunch of extra content over there. We probably got pushing 40 extra episodes. It's almost a year's worth of Holo content for doing one a week. I share all kinds of different shit over there. Declassified files I find, and just a weird place to hang out. If you're weird, come on over. We got a Venmo if you'd like to throw some change in our monster fund. We appreciate that and love all you guys. You could also go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. When I find them, I'll shout them out like I'm going to do right now. This is from the Great White North, from Canada, from our friend Robitnej, RIROBITNEJ1.
Hell yeah.
I'm just gonna say Rob. Rob says 5 stars. I started listening to the Holosky a few months back. Quickly became my favorite to listen to while at work. These two dudes are funny and informative. Definitely worth a try for everyone. 3 metal emojis.
Oh yeah.
You're watching this on YouTube. Here's a metal emoji for you. Here's 2. So, oh, there's 3. Hell yeah. Shout out to the Canada Hollow Cult.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so thanks, Rob, for taking the time to leave us some kind words. We need them, all of them.
Much appreciated.
From there, we're going to jump right into our listener experience of the day. This is kind of cool because I've never had one from this particular country. So I apologize if I mispronounce your name. This is from our friend Udi or Udi. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to pronounce it.
UDI?
It's UDI.
Okay.
Udi. Okay. Hi, I'm Udi from India. Many people here believe in spirits, and there are many rules on what to do and what not to do to offend them. Once we were passing by a forest and decided to stop and take lunch under a shade tree. My aunt put some food out under the tree, and I when I questioned what she was doing, she told me it was for the spirits. A few days after that, my mom was traveling. She stayed over at a school in a hilly area after her seminar. Around 12, one of their students started screaming and shouting. When they entered her room, it seemed like her eyes were filled with anger. She kept using different pronouns. My mother told the department head to call a doctor. A local maid there saw the whole situation, and they said, I don't think a doctor will be able to help. There's a local here who can do prayers. They called the doctor, but they called the doctor as the risk was too high, but the doctor wasn't able to go near the girl as she violently kept protesting, fighting, and shouting curses. They took advice of the maid and looked for the man who could do these prayers. The man was about to leave for his home, but they got him before he managed to leave, luckily. As soon as the man entered the room, the girl calmed down. She sat quietly in a corner. The man did some chants and prayers over the girl, and soon enough, she seemed to calm down, but was clueless as to what had just happened. This is one of the many stories I've heard in my life. Because of the look of terror on my mother's face, I believe it. Or maybe perhaps she's just a good actor. Who knows? Well, Udi, thank you so much for taking the time to send us this experience. It is awesome to hear from people all over the world that I would never, ever have had a chance to hear from if it weren't for this podcast and the outreach that you all have provided for us in this platform. It sounds like a possession.
Yeah.
100%. It is yeah, I'm curious. Like, I am not familiar with the spiritual and metaphysical aspects of the Indian culture. So I'm wondering if it is similar to like Christianity and Catholic possessions. You know what I mean? Like, if the spirits are similar, if it's
Right.
demons, if it's jinn, if they all are under the same umbrella, or how that works. But the fact that once the guy that lived in the area came and started to chant and pray for her, that all this went away, totally sounds like an exorcism.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it sounds exactly like, and Christianity would be what we know, right? Like that's our bridge to the gap, so to speak. Not to say that our demonic possession and theirs is the same thing, but I feel like you said, it works in the same realm because they had a guy come pray over them and were able to exercise whatever was in there. I also, man, you weren't even like 2 sentences in and I was already captivated, because it's like, everybody knows that we both really vibe like Native American lore and belief and practice, and just within the first 2 sentences of this submission, I had that same vibe. Like, we're getting ready to get some shit dropped onto us. And I also appreciate the cultures like the natives, like our friend here, that still for lack of better words, like pay homage to the spiritual realm, to the, like he was saying, there's set out food or whatever for the spirits. Like there's that level of acknowledgement there that still exists in a lot of cultures. And I find that fascinating and just amazing at the same time.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that collect ancient American artifacts, and a lot of times they'll have a particular spot that's like has some sort of connection to them. Like you get to the spot and it's almost like you feel it, like
Yeah.
you're okay with being there. Like
Right.
they're cool with you being at this spot, right? And a lot of people will leave little tokens of appreciation. To loose tobacco, they'll just set it under a rock or set it under some earth, just kind of like you're almost like this place seems special to them, so you're letting me take part in this special place as well. So here's our little gift to you for giving to us.
It's funny that
It reminded me of that.
yeah, it's funny that you use that word to that phrase, because that was the one I was searching for whenever you were reading it. That was where my brain went, is the connection. There's still that connection to this belief, this lore, however you want to describe it. There's still that active connection. And like one like one of the only ways that I can kind of feel the same way, like, and describe that connection, is when we were messing with egress. Because whenever it was done, when egress stopped, like just left us on red, so to speak, it was like I could literally feel the connection fading. And I'm just like, this is like the most bizarre feeling ever. Because essentially to us, egress isn't even real. It is, but you know what I mean? Like there
We
was
have no idea what it is.
right. And then for whatever reason, in the following months that they excommunicated us, like I felt like something was being taken away from me. It was the most bizarre feeling.
Yeah.
And but I love that word and that phrase, just connection. I think it just hits the nail right on the head.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's it can be positive and negative. Like
Yeah.
the place that I go to, my favorite place in the world, is just I get up there and I just feel so connected to the earth. I feel so connected to the past. Like there's something uh it's hard to explain. Like if you pick up this tool that was manipulated by man, say 8,000 years ago, right? And you're the first human to touch it in 8,000 years. Like that is a profound connection that you have to a person that you don't it doesn't even exist on your timeline.
Right.
The only way that you two are connected is from this one static object. And it
Yeah.
makes you feel, at the same time it makes you feel so connected, it also makes you feel so like tiny in the scheme of time and history. Like you're here for a flash and then you're gone.
Right.
The only thing you have left is these rocks you used to live with. It's weird, but it also made me think of when we were fucking around at uh Cemetery X. When we got up there in that back corner of that
Oh,
cemetery,
there's 100%, like
that
a
was
like a there was totally a vibe in that section there. It was bizarre.
so yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Right. But I think like you were saying, your special place there, uh I, it almost makes you wonder, like, because back in the day, like you hear that talk a lot too, the connection with the earth, that connection with the area, I mean, because the people back then, they picked quote unquote spiritual places, and I guarantee it was that same feeling, that feeling that they got when they were there. You know what I mean? And I feel like in today's world, that's where we don't really have a whole lot of that anymore.
No. And in the archaeological context of the time period, from the pieces that I have found at this specific spot, something kept people coming there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I don't know what it is about the spot. I don't know if it was prime hunting ground. I don't know what it was, but the archaeological context shows artifacts everywhere from like 8,000 to 10,000 BC, like mammoth hunters, all the way up to probably 0 BC. So 8 to 10,000 years that have
That's
kept people
wild.
in that spot. It
That's
is
wild,
crazy.
man. That's awesome.
It's a crazy thing. But anyway, now that I stepped off that soapbox, 20 minutes later, everybody's going to be pissed we didn't get right to the meat of the subject.
You get over it.
Talk about the germs, Kyle.
Let's talk about the germs.
Talk about the germs.
All this is basically in no specific order. I think in the future I'll eventually revisit this because I found some pretty interesting books. There was one on like Lyme disease and a couple other ones, but I ended up finding a few of these accounts. I even found a declassified document that basically admits to all of this shit. But like I said, no specific order. But I found that basically not only our government, but governments across the world have done this. Just tested germs, tested chemicals on unknowing amount, populations. There was one that really, like when you research this, you find this main one here. I saw this one pop up a lot. It happened September 20th, 1950. There was a United States Navy ship that sat off the coast of San Francisco, and it received its orders to begin the testing. They basically sat outside and they started using basically giant hoses and began spraying microbes into the fog. The purpose was to see how an attack would affect the estimated 800,000 residents in the city. During this experiment, the hospital staff in the area were taken back because they weren't, obviously they weren't a part of this test. They weren't informed that this stuff was happening. So the hospital staff saw a jump in this extremely rare bacteria, and I'll probably destroy this name, but it's Serratia, Serratia marcescens, marcescens. Anyways, they ended up publishing an article because so much of this has popped up in the medical journal. There was a man that actually ended up dying from this bacteria because, if I remember correctly, he was in getting prostate surgery or something like that, and the bacteria ended up getting inside him and making its way into his heart, which ended up killing him. This bacteria was, in fact, one of two that were used during this experiment in itself. The Navy they sprayed this place for 7 days with these microbes. And it, oddly enough, it only caused, from what they know, from what we know, from what I was able to find, it's only caused about one death. But the test was part of a 20-year program spanning from 1949 to 1969. During this program, apparently over 239 tests were conducted. And that's just one of the many that it was outed, because we don't know, just like with MK Ultra, a lot of MK Ultra's files were destroyed upon discovery of MK Ultra. Like once that broke, they started burning the fucking files. And it's just, dude, it's like reading up on this stuff really gut checks you, and one thing that made me want to look into this wasn't even obviously our current times, which you could easily chalk up to the possibility of. However, do you remember back in the day, I can't remember what year it was, but whenever all them bath salts cases started popping up,
everybody started eating everybody else.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was trying to find it. I wasn't able to stumble on it. Not to mention I've been crazy busy lately, but I remember in the conspiracy back channels, there was talk that a lot of these outbreaks were within X amount of miles from CDC headquarters in these areas.
Oh, that's
Like
weird.
maybe somebody in those areas was starting to test things
That's
and
fucking
then just
weird.
ended up blaming it on bath salts.
No,
And
that's weird.
I remembered that, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna start looking into them testing, because another one, and I don't remember if I get into it or not, but like your Lyme disease, I heard that it was made in Lyme, a town called Lyme, and one of the main purposes was that they injected it into ticks to drop on the enemy. They were just going to drop millions of ticks across enemy lines. But I assume they thought Lyme disease was going to take down the enemy faster than what Lyme disease actually does. And then
They didn't weaponize it enough.
Right, exactly. And then now you look at the repercussions from that, because it's like super smart people like that don't think very well. And I know that sounds dumb, but a lot of people, I feel like a lot of really smart people are just like, well, in the name of science, fuck it. Let's just go full send and see what happens. And then you're like, oh, well, what if them ticks obviously spread across the entire planet and then just start wreaking havoc?
Yeah, like if you get Lyme disease, you have it forever, right?
I believe
I don't think
so.
there's a cure once it gets to a certain point.
I think, I think if you catch it really early, you can treat it. But if you don't, from what I understand, it's pretty devastating on people.
I'm looking up, like I always do whenever you bring a topic. I'm looking up this bacteria, right? This Serratia marcescens bacteria
Mm-hmm.
that they used it to emulate an anthrax attack
Right.
to see how it would spread. And it said the one that they released off the coast of San Francisco showed exposure to almost all of the city's 800,000 residents in 1950.
Yeah.
Almost everyone there had been exposed to it. And they said, had it been anthrax, it would have been widespread casualties. They also said that they released it into the air handling system at the Pentagon.
Oh, that's
and
lovely.
It spread completely throughout the structure.
But once again, I mean, they basically did the same thing during MK Ultra. They tested it on themselves essentially.
Yep. And here close to home, I'm reading this from PBS.org, the American Experience, the St. Joe program and large area concept. Something about the field test in response to the Air Force request in 1953, Chemical Corps created the St. Joe program, and operatives staged mock anthrax attacks on St. Louis, Minneapolis, and Winnipeg. The bacteria were released from generators placed on top of cars, and local governments were told that they were invisible smoke screens that were being deployed to mask the city on enemy radar.
Yeah.
So they just drove around the city with visible emissions of this shit.
Yes.
They're like, don't worry about it.
Bro, I don't know. I don't remember if I wrote it down or not. I should have if I didn't. But anyways, no, right here. Yeah. So in Minneapolis, reports are found where they actually spread chemicals through a school. They put it through a school, and they could literally see the fog in the school. And I believe, was that the same place you just talked about, or is it two completely different locations?
This didn't say anything. It is Minneapolis.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was, because I did read where, like, one excuse they used was, and it might have been, it is relatively similar to what you were saying, but they said they were trying to mask the city to disguise it from in case of nuclear attack.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's probably the same thing. They said just disguise it from radars, but they said after they did the cars, the next stage was to increase dispersal patterns, dispensing the particles from airplanes to find out how wide they would affect. They said,
and they put, like you said, I didn't know about the car one, but they put them. They also set up machines on city rooftops and just in normal or random intersections throughout the city.
It's so fucked.
They said
crazy. they found particles 1,200 miles away.
Yeah.
That's and they would big time.
They used to charter planes from Canada and fly it across the Midwest. St. Louis was included. Just fly it across the Midwest and basically chemtrail everybody, just put shit everywhere. And those are the things that we know about.
Yeah, stop me if I'm cutting your grass again.
No, you're good. You're good.
The light bulbs. Did you hear the one about the light bulbs?
In New York.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Okay.
But
because I thought this was similar because it was talking about the guy that just passed away that you had talked about. He's also at the end of this, so I thought maybe it came before that, but
right.
Yeah, that's so fucked up.
Yeah, and actually, in 2012, there was a sociology professor at St. Louis Community College who put a report out suggesting that people in low income areas who have been exposed to this, they use zinc, cadmium sulfide, and they're saying that these people would get cancer from it. So a lot of them suffered cancer. And then not to mention, I know that it's not 100% related to this, but then you look at the Tuskegee experiments, when they just let African-American people get injected with fucking syphilis, and they just told them they had bad blood. They're like, oh, you got bad blood. And then they literally infected them with syphilis and then watched them as they died from syphilis and did nothing to stop it. They just kept coming up with excuses. Oh, you got this. Oh, it's that. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Just to see what would happen. So
fucked.
It's fucking terrible.
So fucked.
It's absolutely terrible. And that's why you hear it a lot in the African American communities where they'll come out with vaccines or stuff like that, and people are like, "No, I'm good.
Yeah, well, why
Which I don't fucking blame them.
Why would you trust them?
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, and I'm like, yeah, fuck all this. I'm not trying to do that stuff. That's crazy. And it's just, it's one of them things. Like I said, and some of their excuses was just crazy. They used the excuse in Congress and stuff like, hey, we need to test these out theoretically to see if it can be done to us. So we need to see how it's going to affect the air. That'd be like saying, hey, we're just going to drop a nuclear warhead on St. Louis to see what would happen if they dropped it on New York.
How fucked is that? They said they dispersed the zinc cadmium sulfide by plane over St. Louis and Minneapolis. These cities were chosen because they were most similar to Soviet targets such as Moscow in terms of terrain, weather, and population. So instead of dropping it on the enemy, we're going to test it.
Test it on our people first.
That way everybody gets cancer.
I wonder if because back then St. Louis would have been a pretty booming city. Right? Because I think back in the 50s and stuff, St. Louis was a pretty decent city.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. It should have had a lot of industry and stuff at the time. Could be wrong, but either way, still fucked. No matter which way you look at it, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it says sociology professor Lisa Martino Taylor claimed there was a spike in cancer rates that could be connected back to the chemicals which she alleges were radioactive.
Not surprising. Let's just see what happens.
That's fucked up.
Dude, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And like you were saying, another test that they decided to do was they put light bulbs full of bacteria on the tracks in New York subway systems.
Just read that.
Yeah, so these light bulbs would break on the track, housing fucking trillions of bacteria within them. The bacteria would get pulled to the air as the train leaves, which would spread across the entire city, exposing millions of people.
Every time a subway would come through, a train would come through, it was just new circulation of those particles.
Yeah.
Just fucking slinging them out.
There was an Army scientist, Charles Cincini. He testified in 1975 that one of these light bulbs broken at 14th Street would easily spread bacteria all the way up to 58th Street. It's fucking crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
It's so stupid.
Like, I don't understand. I just don't. I mean, on one hand, yeah, you do understand to the degree of, well, how bad is Fallout going to be if we are to be attacked with biological weapons? How bad is the fallout going to be? But at the same time, you don't fucking find bacteria and then dump it all over the city, which also begs the question, how do they test? Like, okay, let's put ourselves in this New York subway situation. We break the light bulb on the track. How do we test that fallout? How do we test how far that bacteria has made it? Are they able to just test the air quality?
I think so.
Okay.
That one that went 1,200 miles, they were talking about particulates in the air.
Okay.
They found them 1,200 miles away.
Because I was like, it made me wonder if they had to actually test humans for that. And then it would beg the question, well, what ploy did they use to entice people to come into, or maybe they were confiscating lab work or something like that, kind of double testing it.
Could have been anything, really, right. Depending on how they test it.
Right.
They said that other bacteria that was released, there was two kinds. There was that Serratia marcescens, and then there was this other one that was in the light bulbs. It's called Bacillus globigi. I'm probably mispronouncing it because I'm not an expert. But at the time, they were thought to be safe. But this right. one that was in the light bulbs is now listed as a pathogen that causes food poisoning and can hurt anyone that's susceptible with a weak immune system. So it talked about like 11 people were hospitalized with bacterial infections, and then one of them passed away.
Which, I mean,
a week later,
sounds ironically similar to our current predicament.
So fucked.
You know what else is? I found this fucking crazy. So these are just like, those were just three or four, 5 of the rumored tests, right? Well, ironically enough, during the exact same time, the Europe was testing the exact same type of tests on their population. So that would suggest, I mean, a lot of this was during your Cold War and stuff like that, but that would obviously suggest that Europe and America were fucking talking, and they were like, yeah, well, it's definitely. So it's not like, because a lot of people would look at that and just be like, no, here's what we needed. Like, we need to solely blame the United States for this. And in hindsight, the way I look at it is, oh, no. Like, all these motherfuckers are in cahoots with each other. They're all experimenting on everybody. It's not just one country being an idiot. It's all these people being idiots. Even if it was, okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, which still doesn't make it any better. But let's just say America started it first, and then the people over in Europe are like, oh, those crazy Americans are testing this stuff. We need that information too. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and start testing on our people.
Dude, it's goddamn. The more I look into it, the more fucked it is.
It's insane, dude.
As if it like you said about Tuskegee, as if it wasn't like unethical enough to test this shit on unknowing people. The fact that they would like race target is even worse. Like, that's even more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I'm looking at this. In 1951, tests were carried out at the Norfolk Naval Supply Center in Virginia, a massive base that equips the U.S. Navy. Fungal spores were dispersed to see how they would infect workers unpacking crates there. Most of these workers were African Americans. The scientists wanted to test a theory to see if they were more susceptible to fungal disease than Caucasians. Like, why? Why does that fucking matter?
Bro, that's like in my opinion, that's what science does. That's science, right? That because to me, that's no different than a scientist. Like when we talk about CERN, I mean, it's obviously different because it's dealing with the people, but in this parallel, when we're dealing with CERN, and they theorize that okay, well, we could fire CERN up right now, and we could create a black hole and it destroy everyone on this planet. And the scientists are still like, full send, worth it, boop. Like I feel like that it's in the same realm because I feel like a lot of people who get obsessed with their work like that, they don't care what the repercussions are, or they're just so curious. Like, what are the repercussions to? Is there a difference between uh, Asian immunity versus Caucasian immunity, in between Spanish immunity, or are we all just the same? Well, there's only one way to find out. So let's just go ahead and start testing this on everybody that we can.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only reason to do that is to target specific ethical backgrounds.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, why else would you want to know?
100%. Well, I don't remember who it was. I might have been listening on
Ethnic,
Rogan.
not ethical.
It might have been listening on Rogan or somewhere, but I was listening how they are. I believe it's the Chinese. I could be wrong, but I believe that they are working on. I don't know. It'd be a biological weapon, or maybe even a chemical weapon. But either way, they are figuring out how to specifically target like markers in people's DNA. So they could release a biological weapon in the atmosphere over the United States, and let's just say it's only designed to kill white men with brown hair. In theory, that's possible now.
How fucking terrifying is that?
That is utterly terrifying because, I mean, realistically, you could disguise it as a flu, but it only kills this person.
Even more than that, like if they can break it down that specifically, they could pick out genomes that are specific to one person, like
precisely
your specific DNA,
yep,
and knock you the fuck out. So maybe be like, oh, he probably just had a heart attack.
Yep.
You know, like
absolutely.
oops.
And yeah, I mean, and like you said, if they're that advanced, why wouldn't they be able to trigger a heart attack? Trigger.
Oh, I'm sure they.
You know what I mean? Like trigger. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe trigger blood clots, aneurysm. You know who?
Everything.
Yeah, who knows, right? Because the Chinese worked on CRISPR, and supposedly you can just edit genes now.
Look at the Havana syndrome, like that.
Right?
How does that specifically target people like that work in the U.S. embassy?
That's a good point.
Not everybody around you. Everybody around.
I never thought about that.
Which I'm probably eventually going to do an episode on, but trying to find information on it is, whew.
It's crazy, man. Just like to sit and think about it, because the powers that be, you know, they're not saying it's the way it should be, but they're kind of put in charge of our safety and well-being. And the fact that they will blatantly disregard that for their curiosity, in which they will mask with this whole national security, or like it's for the betterment of the good. You know, fuck that. You know what? My family needs me, asshole. And no, I'm not trying to sacrifice anybody for this bullshit.
And the bottom line is, when it comes to like them causing the cancer and shit, like,
yeah,
we as human beings are worth so much more to the powers that be when we're fucking sick.
Oh, facts.
So much more. Because if you have terminal cancer, you're going to throw every dime you have to not die.
Yeah.
If you have a child with terminal cancer, you're going to sell everything you own to try to get the care
The
to
best care.
cure,
The best
yeah,
care.
to cure your kid and save them.
Oh yeah,
So
without question.
if you're telling me that if they have a cure for cancer, that
Yeah.
that it's not on a shelf somewhere put away because pharma's fucking hand over fist in all this fucking money in, you're out of touch.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And that episode will come eventually too, because this has also kind of re-sparked that conversation in my head of how many people have found cures to a lot of these diseases, whether it's cancer or AIDS, HIV. Those have basically been cured, as far as I'm aware.
It's
And
everything. It's anything that
yes,
takes away
yeah,
from the bottom dollar
yep,
of big companies.
yep,
The fucking water powered engines and shit. You hear that all the
yep,
time. The people get
absolutely,
knocked off and they're
absolutely.
what's the word I'm
And
looking for?
the research is taken or destroyed
Yeah. Yeah, the
every
patents
time.
are gone. Weird.
Yeah, every
Weird.
time. Yeah, it's funny how that works. And like you said, and then if you think at the grand scale, not only has, well, it's been happening the past 3 years, but if you go down that grand scale, that essentially means that, in my opinion, that one person or even corporations could take over the entire planet with something as easy as a biological agent. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? All it takes is that one well planned, because you could have any country, you pick one. You could Antarctica. I know there's not a population, but it's just less drama. If there's a population on Antarctica and they're just, you know what, we're gonna control the global market. Fuck this. I'm gonna release an illness that makes people sick for a while, and then it basically just festers and evolves, and then it just starts off on everybody. Ba-doom, 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 just creating, like we were talking the other day, creating that vulnerable class. Like every time it evolves, there's a vulnerable class, and that class gets clipped.
Knocks them off.
It gets clipped.
Like the only sick, like I said before, sick people are worth so much more than dead people.
Oh, facts.
So killing everybody off is not good for the bottom dollar.
No,
It's not
absolutely
going to
not.
kill off all of your fucking working class and everybody who keeps the fucking shitty, dirty, greasy cogs of this whole goddamn world rolling. Because then there's nobody to do it.
Right. And then there's one thing that sells better than anything, and that's fear. Fear, it will make people do insane
Speaking of
things.
speaking of carcinogens here,
we're
circling back
all we're
around.
all good for that. We're all good for that. But I did find uh, another one from the Soviets. Pretty fucking interesting. And man, as much as I love some of the Russian stuff, I fucking hate the way they pronounce things and spell things, because it is so hard for me to read. It is insane, man. I love the way they sound when they talk. I think it's awesome. But bro, I
Oh
can't
shit,
read
that's
this
not the
shit.
direction I thought I was going. I thought you were
I
gonna be like, I hate that they're almost gonna nuke us right now. But no, if they could just spell
oh,
shit right, that'd be fucking great.
man. So there was this site, right? It was Arlisk 7, ARALSK -7, on the, not even gonna fucking attempt it, but I'll spell it VOZROZHDENIYA. We'll just call it V
Whitey Herzog,
Island.
the
V
island.
Island.
Copy that.
So there was this secret military place or base, and this place, it was like it wasn't marked anywhere. It was not on any maps. Wasn't marked anywhere. This place was used to manufacture anthrax, smallpox, the plague. They made tularemia. I can't read this. That typhus was another one that they messed with there. But So during this time at this base, they're making all these exotic diseases and basically biological weapons. And one of the main things they focused on was anthrax. They were just mass producing anthrax. And apparently anthrax is a bad bitch. And not only that it will murk you, but it'll survive almost every single thing you throw at it. It'll survive for hundreds of years buried. Solid. But what the Soviets did with all this anthrax, because I guess they had it in these big vats and it started leaking in it because they weren't producing it on this island.
In Russia, anthrax finds you,
bro. They were mass producing it. Like, let's just say it's in a small town or a village or whatever. So they're mass producing it there. It starts to leak. So they're like, all right, we got to get rid of this shit because people are getting sick and dying. So they take it to this island. And then on this island, they've got big old pits and they just dumped all the anthrax into the pits, dude.
Hell yeah.
And they thought they were going to kill it because they started like mixing like the baddest bleach they could get. They just started dumping it on the anthrax, right?
Okay, we'll just bleach it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, they thought they were just going to bleach it out of existence. So they pour it in these giant fats. And of course, what's going to happen over time? Even if it doesn't matter if it's in a metal container or a concrete container, it's going to start leaking out. So you have that. And then you have, apparently on this island, they had pits of infected animal corpses, unmarked graves of people that they tested on. They had open air tests at this facility. And essentially, like, so picture just like a string of islands anywhere in the world. And it's just green and lush and green and lush. And then there's this one fucking island in the middle of all of it that's just barren wasteland now.
Just murder island.
Dude, the island is completely devoid of all life now because all these exotic diseases are just harbored in this one spot.
Why in the fuck? Back then was the best solution. Like, even like we're notorious about it. Like, radioactive material, let's just fucking bury it. Let's just put it in the ground. It'll be fine. And then now it's in fucking drinking water, fucking Camp Lejeune and everything else. Like, you see it all over the television. We'll just bury it. Out of sight, out of mind, folks.
Dude, they said this island literally looks like a desert now because it's just devoid. Like they said that they witnessed like a whole herd of animals just basically fall over and die. Over. Yeah.
Probably had fucking super gonorrhea or some shit.
Giant schools of fish getting washed up, just all fucking toasted.
That checks
out.
Oh
man.
Why not?
It's so irresponsible. Like that's like the most condescending way I could put it too. It's just irresponsible. Like, why?
Just do better.
Why?
Just do better.
Right?
Fucking and everyone.
It's no different than like how, okay, here's a question. How do you personally feel about like gain of function testing?
Say that all again now.
How do you feel about gain of function testing? Like testing and creating diseases to be more potent, like they openly do.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
That's kind of where I'm at. That's
an awful idea.
Why are we doing this?
Like, I heard like somewhere in the UK, fucking just was fucking with the COVID virus and made it like 8 times more lethal.
Cool.
Why would you do that?
That's genius.
Why?
Like, I can understand. Like,
it's already set the whole world in an uproar.
Yeah.
And now you're just like, you know what? We're gonna crank this bitch up to 8 and see what happens.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Like,
we are not a species that's meant to survive. No. I will die on that hill instead of like okay, we've
probably literally
found, yeah. It's like, all right, so we got one group over here working on a way to get rid of this virus. Well, you over here let's see how bad we can make
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Just in case.
Steve's almost got the cure for this. Let's throw him a curveball.
Yeah, let's
Let's
see
add
how
something else to
terrible.
it.
Like, can we make it to where you just crack and bleed out of every orifice of your body? Can you guys do that for us?
Yeah.
Let's get that one in the tank just in case.
Right.
Then we can test, if it gets that way on its own in
That's the
nature.
bonus round. Whenever Steve's trying to cure it, and then all of a sudden they're just waiting over there, like, watch this. And then all of a sudden Steve's patient starts cracking and bleeding. You're like, fuck, I didn't plan for this.
His head fucking sprouts another head and shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I did find another one here that I'm gonna go into if you don't have any left.
No, go for it.
Oh, this is a good one. So, as well as open air testing, this is on theconversation.com. As well as open air testing, the U.S. military has a record of weaponizing infected insects.
Yeah.
In 1954, for example, scientists carried out what is, hands down, the best ops name ever. Operation Big Itch.
Fuck.
Where they tested. The test was designed to find out if fleas could be loaded into bombs, which they could. And the test happened just a few years after the Soviets accused the U.S. of dropping canisters full of insects infected with cholera and the plague on Korea and China during the Korean War. This is something the U.S. military denies as a disinformation campaign from the Soviets, but I did find some declassified documents on old Operation Big Itch here, which we'll jump into on the Patreon.
That's insane. That's insane. I have a document too, declassified, and it's basically like, it's super long. I was going to read it, but we're probably nearing an hour at the time now. But
I gotta come to the Patreon if you want the Big Itch.
Oh, bro, like the Army,
nothing a little cream won't clear up.
It's here in Congress and shit, where the Army planned to build a $1.4 million bioweapons test lab that will conduct secret research on substantial volumes of toxic biological arsenal agents. That was this is in Congress and shit. And it's here in a declassified document. I mean, tons of just where the senators and stuff are talking about it. They conducted secret experiments in Utah at Dugway, or under contract with Dugway, involving large scale field testing of some of the most infectious and toxic biological warfare agents, including Rocky Mountain spotted fever, plague, some other ones that I can't pronounce. But I mean, how crazy is that?
I just read a fucking thing on the good old propaganda machine Facebook that there's some sort of strep outbreak in the UK, which is pushing scarlet fever in children over there. Like they said, normally
that's low.
150 to 200 kids get scarlet fever a year. This year already, with 2 months left to go, there's already almost 900 cases. So it spiked it almost 10 times.
Bro, check this out. This is in that declassified document.
Weird.
The Army was fully aware that the diseases might spread outside the test zones to populated areas. One contract states it will not be possible to prescribe safety parameters to preclude the spread of diseases to livestock or humans. Another calls for analysis of morbidity surveillance data regarding geographical spread beyond focal areas and or the Dugway Proving Ground geographic limits.
Whoops. Oops.
How? Now imagine that. Imagine being a fly on the wall. You somehow overhear this conversation in Congress, and they're all sitting around, like, seriously talking about this. That there isn't one person going, what the fuck did you just say? You're gonna, like, not only are you gonna test some of the most hellacious biological bullshit on the planet, but you're also acknowledging that it's gonna get out. There's no stopping that.
No.
It's gonna get out, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Listen to who you're talking about here. You're talking about the heads of state in the U.S.
Man,
those motherfuckers didn't hear anything but how big of a check is Johnson & Johnson going to cut us this year?
Right.
Because the more we test, the more they can fucking use it to try to fucking push all this other shit.
That, to me, it's just crazy, dude. Like,
money talks, life walks, bud.
Yeah, well,
they don't give a fuck.
People need to fucking grow up and do better, because this is insane.
Yeah, that
do
whole,
better.
Those first few that you were talking about is called Project 112, and I'm reading right here on the gao.gov, the Government Accountability Office, say even as far as in 2005, they were still trying to track down people who had been potentially exposed and or had died from these tests. And it says, as of February 28,
so what, were they trying to pay them all under the table?
I don't know. The Department of Defense reported that it is believed to have exhausted all reasonable sources of information to identify Project 112 military participants, although it remains open to the receipt of relevant additional documentation from veterans for the purposes to certify them as participants. So I'm imagining there's probably some sort of fucking lawsuit or...
Most likely.
Yeah, because it said military personnel were exposed. I mean, they put that shit through the fucking Pentagon. They put it in the goddamn air conditioning unit in the Pentagon.
That's so crazy to me.
I'm like, we're just gonna... Oh, yeah.
So crazy.
Workman comps claims.
It's so crazy. And that's
but
another
let
thing.
It be noted that the statute of limitations for filing these compensation claims related to Project 112 has long passed as of 2005.
Oh, well, of course.
If you have cancer...
Sorry about you.
Sucks.
Yeah, you should have reported it in 2004.
Pay up.
Suckers.
Signed... U.S. government.
But it brings me to my final point here, because if not, we're just going to keep going. But you brought up fleas earlier, and like when you said fleas, I was like, yeah, okay, good luck keeping if you had a giant vat full of fleas and you infected them with the Black Plague, like my number one response is going to be good luck not letting any of them fleas escape. Good luck. Impossible. They're gonna get out.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, then you if you step back, you're like, well, wait a minute. Germs are way the fuck smaller than a flea. So if you can't keep fleas in check, how are you going to keep the things that you can't even see in check?
Look at fucking West Nile virus. Look at Zika.
Right.
Fucking mosquitoes. What are everywhere?
Mosquitoes.
All the time it's warm. Like there is a better... Show me a better insect to weaponize than a mosquito.
For sure. Like, they're a million times more potent than ticks. Yeah, because like fleas. You said, mosquitoes are literally everywhere.
I can't even go outside to grill without fighting. It could be like 36 fucking degrees outside and I'm still fighting mosquitoes.
Oh, I know. It's insane. And I believe at one point, weren't they talking about putting quote unquote vaccines inside mosquitoes and just letting them run?
Would it shock you?
No.
They can put viruses in there. They sure fucking put vaccines in there.
Well, I'm sure it wouldn't be a vaccine.
Fucking nerds.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Do fucking better.
That's where I'm at. Do better.
So, yeah. We're probably gonna... When Kyle wraps this up, we're gonna jump over to the Patreon. And probably read some declassified files that have been posting over there. We're gonna get into the big itch. That should be fucking... I don't know, those words I never thought I'd say. But yeah.
But yeah, that'll be about it. I'm on a time frame tonight, so
that's a good combo.
Gotta try and turn and burn.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
We were all over the place on that one.
Hey, that's fine. That's what we do.
That's what happens when we're on Zoom. We're not like in proximity to one another to keep each other in check, so we fucking just fly. All right, Holo fam, Holo cult. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Check us out at all our socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Come and hang out with us. Until we meet again next Monday, stay safe, stay weird, and if you got the big itch, blame it on the government.